The Rams star defender reveals the truth as to why 2024 ended the way it did. Also, quarterback controversy, but we're talking about the quarterback 3 position as the Rams re-sign a quarterback. All on today's episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron. Remember, if you guys are not subscribed to the channel, do me a favor. Press the subscribe button now, as roughly 68.7% of you guys are watching the videos, but you're still not subscribed to the channel. Hey, look, if you're already watching, it doesn't cost you a thing to subscribe, so might as well press the subscribe button so you don't miss any daily Rams content here at the Rams Digest. First things first, I do want to get into this first story here as we are discussing the truth being revealed as Kobie Turner, star defensive tackle for the Rams, comes out and talks about why he believes the Rams ended up losing in 2025 in the playoffs, obviously not winning the Super Bowl, which is not the ideal scenario for the Rams as of last year, right? So Kobie Turner reveals what really killed Rams 2024 season. This comes to us from Athlon Sports. Lorenzo J. Reyna, I believe, possibly from actually Yahoo Sports, reposted this onto Yahoo from Athlon Sports. I just want to give the proper credit there. But yeah, very interesting, right? We're hearing from a star defender talking about, hey, this is actually what killed our season. This is what we need to work on next upcoming year, because if we can slow this down or stop this from happening again, possibly we become Super Bowl champs, right, in the near future. That's the goal here. So obviously love to hear from Kobie Turner. He is, in my opinion, the leader of this defense. I know obviously we have to remember he's still young in his own right? I think sometimes we forget how young Kobie Turner is himself. And so him coming out, being a leader, a vocal leader, saying, hey, look, this is what we need to work on. This is what killed us. This is what I think we can patch up this upcoming season. And maybe the coaching staff is talking about it and acknowledging that this was an issue as well. So here real quick, we're talking about just an image here of Braden Fisk, Jared Verse, Kobie Turner, the big 3 on this defensive line. Don't get me wrong. Don't want to miss out on Byron Young and obviously now Puka Nacua, but shout out to these 3 folks here. Was it really Saquon Barkley who killed off the Rams 2024 season? Turner told Rams reporter J.B. Long that it was much more than that. And that is kind of the question that we talked about last year, right? When the season ended, we discussed, hey, look, the Rams need to slow down the run. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, slowing him down was a key. They were kind of able to slow him down a little bit, obviously, in that snow game. It was a very difficult game, of course, to play in. The Rams did what they could. They competed in that game. Obviously, we're very, very close. Maybe some offensive line blocking issues end your year at the end of the day, but ultimately, the Rams had some things they want to work on in their own right. And I do kind of agree what Kobie Turner is kind of leading with here. So he says, over the course of this year, what killed us was a lot of the big plays, in particular, a lot of big runs. If you really look, it was a couple of those plays where we fitted up wrong, or a couple of those plays where we maybe got caught out. It's just, it's about minimizing those plays. And so ultimately what he is essentially saying, and I did kind of paraphrase his quote here because he did kind of go on a long quote in general discussing this conversation, but ultimately what he is saying is the Rams, yes, Saquon Barkley going off is obviously an issue, but it's not just Saquon or one particular player or a team that's just better than you, right? The Philadelphia Eagles are the defending champs. After all, they went on to win the Super Bowl last year, so you lost to what arguably was the best team in the NFL last year, but the Rams did have an issue giving up big plays, especially in the run, and that is Kobie Turner's job, right? Of course, he is kind of a pass-rushing defensive tackle, but at the end of the day, he is the interior of the defensive line. He is one of those pieces that needs to improve on his run stuffing, because if he can improve on it, especially now alongside the defensive tackle Puka Nacua, who is big time in terms of slowing the run down as a big body in the middle of the defense, then that can obviously translate to them limiting these big time, big play, splash plays, if you will, explosive plays in the run game to opposing teams. I think that's kind of one of the most hurtful things to a defense. When you are doing your best, slow down the run, maybe 2-3 yards here, 2-3 yards there, and you're in third down and short, or if you're just, maybe just kind of battling it out a little bit, maybe slowing down the passing game, and all of a sudden the offense goes on a 40 plus or 20 plus yard run, it just kills the energy of the defense. You know they get another 4 downs. You got to reset after being gassed, probably chasing a running back like Saquon Barkley down the field. It just kills the energy, sucks the soul out of a defense, I think, at times. And we saw it all throughout last year, like Kobie Turner said. Something I think if the Rams can slow down this upcoming season could be a big game changer in terms of what they can do ultimately in the playoffs in the long run. Stay healthy, of course, but slowing down the run, slowing down any explosive plays. It's the NFL. There's great teams all around. You're going to have explosive plays regardless, but I think the Rams defense in particular could do a lot better job of slowing down and stopping those explosive plays as much. So hopefully that's the case. We'll see what happens with that. Let me know how you guys feel about the Rams defense this upcoming season. I'm very excited to see what they can do. I think Puka Nacua is a very, very sneaky kind of signing. Still kind of iffy about that the linebacker room. Still iffy about that cornerback room, especially if you don't end up getting a Jalen Ramsey type of player. But ultimately, I think the Rams do have a solid defense overall, and I think they can improve on what's already been a slow improvement, steady improvement as of the end of last year. Moving on from that, the next story here is talking about a little bit of a lighthearted one, okay? Nothing really too serious, nothing too crazy. We're talking about the quarterback controversy in terms of the quarterback depth of the Rams. We're talking about the third string quarterback. Now, I know not a lot of people really care about this conversation, but I kind of wanted to kind of nip this in the bud real quick before it gets out of hand. So Stetson Bennett gets bad news. Rams bring in another quarterback. Again, this is another story from Athlon Sports. Kevin Matthew Borba may have been a repost to Yahoo, so I'm not sure if he works for Athlon or Yahoo. But ultimately, Stetson Bennett, bad news. The Rams are now signing a running back, or quarterback, I'm sorry. So therefore, Stetson Bennett, your job is in danger. Why would the Rams add another quarterback unless they wanted to give Stetson Bennett competition? I'm not going to argue against quarterback competition. I am not going to argue that you shouldn't challenge Stetson Bennett at all. I am simply arguing that I don't think this recent signing is really that big of a deal to be of a concern or major concern for a guy like Stetson Bennett. Now, again, he is the third string quarterback. He is a player who can be on the practice squad, not affect your total roster depth chart in terms of game days. That was a recent rule change in the last couple of seasons. So Stetson Bennett could be your practice squad quarterback and then be your third string quarterback on game days without you wasting a roster spot, quote unquote. So that's obviously a positive. I think something that's probably going to happen this upcoming season. But why are we discussing this? Well, the Rams added another quarterback to the mix on Thursday, signing 26-year-old Dresser Wynn. If you know that name and it sounds familiar to you, well, it's not really too much of a shocker. This player has signed with the Rams in the past. This is actually Dresser Wynn's third stint with the Rams. A lot of practice squad stints, so you guys may have missed the recent signings in recent years. But we're going to discuss why Stetson Bennett. Obviously, look, signing a quarterback does raise your eyebrow a bit if you're Stetson Bennett, but overall, this is who the Rams are bringing in. While this could just be the team adding another quarterback in the room for offseason workouts, this is Wynn's third stint with the team. He may have a chance to push Bennett for that third quarterback spot. May, right? Emphasis on may. He played his college football at UT Martin, where in his senior year, he threw for almost 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, but 11 interceptions. Not very pretty there. After spending time in the CFL, Wynn played ball in the UFL for the Memphis Showboats. What were his numbers there? Well, in 4 starts with the Showboats, he passed for 834 yards. Not too bad. 3 touchdowns. Okay. 4 interceptions. So overall, not the prettiest of numbers when we're talking about Dresser Wynn. Ultimately, this is a player that I think, just like the article started off saying, he's a guy who's familiar with the playbook, a guy who can throw the football somewhat on a NFL level. Obviously, go in there, challenge some guys on the practice squad, challenge some guys in practice at times. Ultimately, maybe get an opportunity to compete for that practice squad spot, an opportunity to compete against Stetson Bennett, sure, but ultimately I don't think he can beat out Stetson Bennett. Remember, we're talking about a national champion on a Georgia football team, a pretty good program, as opposed to UT Martin, CFL, throwing 3 picks, 4 interceptions, almost more interceptions in the UFL, right, than he did touchdowns, at least with the Showboats. So overall, not really major of a concern for Stetson Bennett. I think he is safe for now. Rams really should invest in the quarterback of the future. We've been discussing that all offseason long. They decided to not really do that this year. Okay, fine. But in some time in the near future, you don't want to have 2 4-plus-year-old quarterbacks on the roster being your only quarterbacks that can be capable to win you games, right? I think the Rams need to invest in that position later in the future, maybe one day, but we'll see. It's definitely not happening this upcoming season, it seems like. Moving on from that, last but not least, my favorite part of the episode, Trivia of the Day, where I ask a trivia question. You give your trivia guesses down below in the comment section. Whether you're right or whether you're wrong, we give you a shout out on the next episode. Last episode's Trivia of the Day, if you missed it, was this question that we posed here. Pretty fun one, I think. We said, which Hall of Fame quarterback famously refused to wear gloves during games, no matter the weather? We had a couple of you guys play along who we'll shout out in a second, but a very intriguing one, right? We're talking about, and I said this in last episode, we're talking about, who's wearing gloves, who's not wearing gloves. I think you can kind of, in my mind, think about some quarterbacks who maybe didn't ever wear gloves, but also I think it's easier to think of guys who did wear gloves. That's kind of a little hint I gave last episode. The multiple choice options, by the way, for this trivia of the day was it A, Brett Favre, B, Tom Brady, C, Joe Montana, or D, John Elway? A few of you guys played along at home. Here were some of your guesses. We had Lewis saying Montana. We had Thomas saying Joe Montana. We had Brian B saying John Elway. We had Brett Glider saying Brett Favre. And we had the real J. Will saying never saw John Elway wear gloves. That's my guess. Interesting trivia question here. I will say this, because it does say which quarterback famously refused to wear gloves during games, no matter the weather. I don't know if this means the other guys never wore gloves but weren't really famously refusing it. Maybe they just didn't like gloves, so they chose not to. That's a very interesting question here. But I think it means that one of these guys never wore gloves, famously refused to, and therefore the other guys at one point in time, wore a glove once, right? So that's what I'm hoping this trivia question was. But we only had one person get it correct. The correct answer for this trivia of the day, which Hall of Fame quarterback famously refused to wear gloves during games no matter the weather, it was A, Brett Favre. Shout out to Glider. Special shout out for you because you got it correct. But shout out to everybody here on this list for playing along with the trivia of the day and guessing on this one. It was Brett Favre, and I do kind of remember that. Obviously, Tom Brady, I think we all remember, wore gloves pretty often, at least one glove on one hand pretty often for a lot of his career. And so, yeah, man, there you go. It was Brett Favre that famously refused to wear gloves regardless of the weather. Kind of that kind of guy, right? From Brett Favre, you kind of can come to expect that from a guy like him. So appreciate you guys for playing along with Trivia of the Day. If you missed this one, don't worry about it. We'll have a Trivia of the Day just right now in a couple seconds. Play along with today's Trivia of the Day. Today's episode, we have this question here. What quarterback once threw 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in a single game twice in their career? So they did it once, twice. Does that make sense? What quarterback once threw 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in a single game twice in their career? Give your thoughts on it real quick for a second while I go ahead and pull up the multiple choice options. Was it A, Patrick Mahomes? Is it B, Peyton Manning? Is it C, Drew Brees? Or is it D, Nick Foles? What quarterback once threw 7 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in a single game twice in their career? Patrick Mahomes, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, or Nick Foles? Give your guesses down below in the comment section. Whether you're right or whether you're wrong, we'll give you a shout out on the next episode, just like we just did those last few folks there. Other than that, that's going to do it for me on today's episode. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already, especially if you're at this point in the video. Just hit the subscribe button. You like the videos, you like the content, stay and subscribe so you don't miss any daily Rams content. That's going to do it for me on this episode of the Rams Digest. I'm your host, Joshua Giron, and I am out.